Okay, Catherine, he signed it.
Then we're good to go.
Ready, Judge.
All right. Ms. Abrams. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here to help us. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that in this proceeding you will accurately translate from English to Spanish and Spanish to English, so help you God? Thank you, ma'am. You are Ángel Daniel Comacho-Trejo.
Sí,
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear, you have raised
Okay.
your right hand, leave it up. Do you solemnly swear that in this proceeding, the information and responses you submit will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
sí, lo juro.
Thank you. You may put your hand down.
Gracias.
Mr. Comacho-Trejo, first of all, you are not a U.S. citizen, is that correct?
No,
But you were charged with driving while intoxicated while in possession of an open container. Are you that same Ángel Comacho-Trejo?
sí soy yo.
Before we proceed, I need to discuss with you briefly some constitutional rights and statutory protections that you have. You have the right to remain silent. That means that you cannot be required or forced to give any kind of statement. You cannot be forced to answer questions. You cannot be required to submit written paperwork that has your signature, especially papers that admit or confess to wrongdoing. Do you understand you have the right to remain silent?
Sí,
You have the right to a jury trial. That means you and your attorney, Mr. Cisneros, and the state could select 6 people from a pool of disinterested citizens who would hear the entire trial information and testimony, would see everything and hear everything, and they would decide whether you have been proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt or whether you're not guilty. That is the right to a jury trial. You understand you have that right?
sí,
You also have a right to what's called confrontation of witnesses. If you decided to go to trial, the state would have to submit witnesses to try and prove you guilty. Those witnesses would be subject to your right to have you and your attorney question, cross-examine, or challenge the witness. That's called the right to confront witnesses. You have that right. Do you understand that?
sí,
When everything is over, you would have a right to appeal. That means that you, yourself, your attorney, or the two of you together could demand that a higher court review the official record in this proceeding, the evidence, everything about this trial and the results for whatever legal challenge you wanted to make. That's called the right to appeal. You'd have to follow rules, including time limitations and other rules regarding form and substance of the documents you have to use. But that's basically called the right to appeal. Do you understand you have that right?
sí lo entiendo.
There's also the right, and you and the state both have this same right, the right to demand that this proceeding or any other legal proceedings be held in the open public courtroom. That right, because of the COVID pandemic, we're suspending. But in order to proceed at this time, you have reviewed and signed a document that's titled Consent to Video Conference of the Hearing. Do you understand that you have done that?
Sí, lo entiendo.
All right, now, there are several documents that are part of this proceeding. They are written documents that you and your attorney have reviewed. Those that you have signed, did you sign them after you had the guidance, the counsel of your attorney?
Sí,
The first document that I've already asked you about is the consent to video conference. The document identifies you and then says that you agree to have this proceeding as we are doing by video conference right here on the computer and stuff. Do you understand that?
sí, lo entiendo.
And did you sign that document?
Sí,
Mr. Cisneros, in the documents that Mr. Camacho-Trejo has signed, did you assist him and counsel him on reviewing those documents and signing them?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Are the documents in English?
They are.
Did you translate them for your client?
I did. I explained them to him in Spanish, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Comacho-Trejo, do you read and write English?
puedo leer y escribir un poco.
The documents that we are talking about that are part of this proceeding, Mr. Cisneros has informed us that he did translate them to you in Spanish. Did you understand them?
Sí,
One of the main documents is titled Defendant's Waiver of Constitutional Rights and Court's Admonitions. It identifies you. It says what you're charged with, what you're pleading to. It explains several things, including the range of punishment involved in your case. It also explains and repeats in writing the constitutional rights and protections you and I talked about a moment ago that I explained to you. Do you know or understand the document that I'm referring to?
sí,
One of the things it tells you too is that the agreement that you and your attorney have made with the state, that agreement is not binding on me as the judge. As the judge, I have the authority and responsibility to say yes or no to your agreement, to all of it, or to give you a punishment within the proper range of punishment. Now, I can give you a punishment greater than what you've agreed to if it's within the proper range of punishment. If I reject your agreement, or if I give you a punishment that's greater than what you agreed to, in either case, the law would allow you to start all over, and what you said or signed up till now would not be used against you. Is that understood?
sí,
So the document that I'm referring to, the defendant's waiver of constitutional rights and court's admonitions, you understood it and signed it.
sí,
There's also a document that informs you that I, as a judge, have certified that you do not have a right of appeal. I explained to you a while ago what the right of appeal is, but the document says this is a plea bargain. Because you've made a deal, an agreement, you will not have a right of appeal. Did you sign that document and understood it?
sí,
It is my understanding from a report that you are going to be granted deferred adjudication. We'll go through the steps of that momentarily, but the thing is, did you sign an application asking for me to grant you deferred adjudication probation.
Sí.
I will remind you that deferred adjudication probation is a written, legal, binding agreement between you and this court. If you live up to all of the supervisory conditions that will be placed on you as a condition of granting you probation, then the case will wind up being dismissed and you will have no legal conviction under the laws of Texas. The federal law may look at it differently. You need to be aware of that. If you fail or refuse to complete 100% of the conditions of supervision, then the state may ask me to give you official notice, bring you in here for a hearing, at which time I, depending on the evidence, I will have the authority to find you guilty, give you a final conviction that will stay with you the rest of your life. Is that clear?
Sí.
Now, finally, I need to make sure you have been given legal information and legal advice concerning what impact this case can have on your immigration status or immigration deportability. Is that correct?
Sí.
And it's my understanding Mr. Johnny Cisneros is the person that is capable and able and did in fact warn you or counsel you about how this case, this proceeding, how it can impact you in as far as immigration. Is that correct?
Sí.
All right, state, you have a motion?
Yes, Judge, we would move to waive the extreme intoxication enhancement, add a count 2, obstruction of a highway, and then proceed solely on count 2.
That's our agreement, Your Honor.
Mr. Cisneros, you have any objection?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Since this motion is in the nature of amendment, do you waive the 10-day amendment notice?
We do, Your Honor.
All right. Then the court grants the motion. Mr. Comacho-Trejo, you're no longer charged with DWI. Is this extreme or with an open container, Ms. Pollard?
Judge, I believe it was extreme intoxication.
I know the other case says that.
Give me a second, I can pull it up.
This one, I believe, was open container.
Was it? Okay. Judge, we're waiving any enhancement that would make this beyond a regular Class B DWI first.
Okay. For the record, then your motion is to waive the enhancement of open container. This is not, and proceed on what?
Obstruction of a highway.
All right. So then we're proceeding on obstruction of a passageway, highway, or waterway. To that charge, Mr. Comacho-Trejo, how do you plead, sir?
Me opongo, dile.
No me opongo.
All right. The plea of no contest in this court is considered a guilty plea, and the plea itself is sufficient for me to convict you, to find you guilty. Do you understand that, Mr. Comacho-Trejo?
Sí, lo entiendo.
All right. Did anyone threaten you, intimidate you, or promise you anything in exchange for your plea of no contest, except for
No.
the plea agreement that you've made?
Excepto por el acuerdo,
Alright.
pero no pasó.
I find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but I do not find you guilty. Instead, I am granting you deferred adjudication in accordance with the agreement that has been reached between you and the state. Ms. Pollard, would you officially recite for me the agreement on, based on the granting of deferred adjudication?
Yes, Judge, the agreement is a $500 fine plus court costs, 14 months deferred adjudication, 48 community service hours, DWI education, victim impact panel, TAP evaluation, and ignition interlock for half the term.
That is our agreement, Your Honor.
The court honors the agreement. Mr. Comacho-Trejo, you are granted 14 months deferred adjudication. You are fined at this time $500 plus court costs. You will complete the DWI education program, which will be provided to you in Spanish, the victim impact panel. You'll submit to a TAP evaluation and you'll perform the recommendations subject to my approval. You'll have 48 hours of community service restitution to do. You'll do ignition interlock. You'll have it imposed on your vehicle or installed in your vehicle for 7 continuous months. Now, Mr. Comacho-Trejo, how do you make a living? How do you support yourself?
Soy trabajador de construcción.
And what do you normally make in a week or a month?
Semanalmente aproximadamente $1,000.
Okay. And do you get this by check or cash?
Me pagan con, a veces me pagan en efectivo y a veces me pagan en cheque.
All right. I will not accept the $500 fine. Instead, it'll be $800. Do you have children you have to support?
No.
All right. I'm going to impose a $800 fine, not 500. The reason is that your income is much greater than most people that have to pay just a $500 fine. Your supervisory fee is going to be $56 a month. Now, because I have increased the fine, it means I've given you a punishment that's slightly greater than what you agreed to. Under the law, you're allowed to start all over again if you choose to do so. It is your choice at this time. Mr. Cisneros, you want to guide him or what do you want to do on this?
Your Honor, I believe it's in my client's best interest to go ahead and accept the plea bargain offer, the additional fine. However, I am asking the court if he could help my client by giving him the minimum supervisory fees. He's gonna have increase in insurance rates and all the other expenses that he's gonna have. And it's just gonna affect him in a long way. And I don't want to put him in a bad situation financially, emotionally, or otherwise. And a little bit of help would help him in that respect.
Mr. Cisneros, I appreciate your advocating for him, but when he's making $1,000 a week and he's a handsome young fellow with no dependents, I'm not going to feel sorry for him at this point. I'm sorry that he got himself in this mess, but that's why I raised the fine and I'm hitting him with a $56 monthly supervisory fee. In addition, Mr. Comacho-Trejo, you will report within 1 week. You have to report to the offices of County Court at Law number 5, so that you can have your thumbprint placed on the official documents as required by law. You understand?
Sí.
Also, do not leave this meeting until after you have had a opportunity to meet with our probation staff. They're going to set things up for you and explain everything to you to get you started to the probation office. At the probation office, they will read to you every one of the conditions that we were talking about. You will sign them and you will have a copy in your hands. Is that clear?
Sí.
All right. Any further questions, Mr. Cisneros?
No, sir, Your Honor.
Questions, Mr. Comacho-Trejo?
No.
Questions by the state?
Nothing further from the state judge.
Thank you very much.